What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we are doing a dynasty discussion around keep trade cut values for veteran running backs and talking about the advantages that you can have if you're not scared of some of these older guys. And we are bringing in my man Snoog again. He was on our video yesterday where we talked about wide receivers. So if you haven't gone check that out, don't leave, stay, watch this video, and then go check that out tomorrow. If you want to go follow him on Twitter, Snoog's Dynasty Society, always open in the DMs, Ohio State fan, really cool guy. So make sure you go support him. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. But let's dive into this, man. Let's dive into this. So I think the oldest, most polarizing running back right now in the dynasty landscape is CMC. Now, we know CMC elite level value when he's on the field, points per game. We all know all of that. But he is getting up there in age. And right now, he is the most expensive, I think, 27-year-old running back I've seen in a long time. But it is also because the running back landscape is kind of in flux right now in the dynasty landscape. So kind of give me your thoughts with CMC and what are you doing right now if you have CMC on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Fame caliber talent. I mean, he's phenomenal, and he's been the best running back in fantasy since he's been in the league when he's on the field. But I think he's in a great situation now in San Fran. They're using him kind of in that Alvin Kamara type role. And his carries low, but his receptions and targets high, just getting the ball in his hands, kind of playing him in that Deebo Samuel role. So, I mean, CMC is a guy that has the elite level ceiling, and he's my RB1 in redraft yet again. Probably everybody else in this world has him as the RB1 in redraft. But what I'm trying to do with his value in Dynasty especially is just turning him into Jahmyr Gibbs straight up. I'd rather Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is actually my Dynasty RB2A/2B. Go back and forth every day. It depends how I wake up between him and Breece Hall. But I'd be trying to convert CMC into one of those guys or trying to get a plus on top for a guy like Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley because you could probably get a pretty hefty plus on top because CMC is still some of people's Dynasty RB2 or 3. So, I mean, you could get a running back that's going to produce at a high level, top 5 ceiling. Again, same age level. Saquon, same age level. Nick Chubb, same age level. But you're going to get a guy that is producing the same way, and you'll get a 24 first on top. So just transitioning off of CMC into those earlier tiered vets that are probably priced around like RB6 to 9, even 10 is the best way to do it in Dynasty.
I think for 1 year of value, CMC, even as RB3, and you have to pay those prices, like it is pretty cheap if that's what it's going to take to get you a championship. But I totally agree with you. If you can tier down to maybe a similar production value and just even pick up like a late 24 first, doesn't even have to be early or mid, I'm all aboard that. So I know you mentioned this other guy, Saquon Barkley, is getting up there in age, which it feels like he just came into the league. It feels like yesterday he showed up and was absolutely demolishing. Like we know as Ohio State fans, he absolutely demolished us for Penn State. RB5 right now as 26 years old, just got tagged, doesn't have a long-term contract. Where are you feeling with Saquon Barkley? Is he kind of in that same mention as CMC where you're trying to trade down? What are you doing with Saquon if you have him on your dynasty roster?
Yeah, I mean, he's my Dynasty RB6 and he's my redraft RB2. So I'm super high on him, especially in redraft this year, because I look at it like this is a running back that is 26 years old, prime year. He can do it all. He's in the best offense he's ever played in. It's almost like he got a reset contract year where it's a prove it year where it's like, all right, if you come out and you do what you did last year, you're going to get your money. So that's the type of contract situation he's in right now. And I mean, we know what Saquon Barkley is. He's a generational talent, best prospect I've ever watched with my own eyes. He used to just absolutely torch everybody in college football, came into the NFL, did it as a rookie and finishes the RB1 in PPR. So, I mean, this is a running back that has had an incredibly high ceiling every single year. He's been healthy, 2 years removed from the ACL, and we see him finish as the RB5 in a mediocre offense with a terrible offensive line. So, I mean, Daniel Jones threw 15 passing touchdowns last year and rushed for 700. So he was doing nothing to help Saquon, and Saquon had a bounce back elite season that was league winning for a lot of people. So they beefed up the O-line this year. They got weapons, Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, 2 fast vertical threats that are going to be much better for that offense. They also added guys like, did they get Paris Campbell too?
Yeah, they have so many slot guys. Yeah,
I believe they got Paris Campbell to have a healthy Wan'Dale Robinson. So, I mean, they're all in this year for being a much better offense, and Dimes hopefully takes that next stride and being just a consistent passing quarterback and can get over 15 touchdowns because that was horrific.
Saquon Barkley definitely carried the team last season. I mean, there's no other way around it. So I love Saquon Barkley, especially if you have some type of contending roster, you're on the fringe, like adding Saquon Barkley. I don't think he's not obviously going to die after next season if he doesn't get a contract. Like he's going to get on a better team. And even if you say I'm getting 2 prime years left of Saquon Barkley, RB5 prices, like I'm willing to pay that because there's so many guys around him that we still have. There's so many question marks of do they even have similar upside to what Saquon does have. So I do still really much so like him in Dynasty, even though he is slowly becoming an older running back, which is crazy. Okay, let's move on to our next running back. We're going to talk about Austin Ekeler. Now, Austin Ekeler, great guy in the fantasy football industry because he's actually embraced the game. He wanted that contract, wanted a bigger contract based on the fact that he's gotten like 20 total touchdowns the last 2 seasons. The Chargers kind of gave it to him, kind of didn't, threw him some extra money, but nothing crazy. Where are you at with Austin Ekeler? If you have him, are you trading him away or are you holding on to him? Let's assume you're middle of the road with Austin Ekeler. How are you feeling?
It's tough with him because the age, 28 years old, he relied on an insane amount of touchdown and receiving volume last year. I mean, he hit a 100 reception mark. That's not going to happen this year as long as Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer, and Gerald Everett are on the field and healthy. He's going to be probably that number 3, number 4 option in the passing game, if so. So 100 receptions just isn't realistic for him again. Kellen Moore coming in, that offense is going to cater to Justin Herbert's insane arm abilities and just push the ball downfield more like we saw in year 2 for Justin Herbert coming off his QB2 overall finish. I mean, Austin Ekeler is a 28-year-old expensive Alvin Kamara. That's how I look at it. So I'd rather just draft this guy behind me at RB like 38 than take Austin Ekeler wherever he's going on keep trade cut or in dynasty leagues. He's probably going in like the 3rd or 4th round. So he's a phenomenal guy, like you said, and embracing the fantasy industry, making tons of cool podcasts with guys like Matt Harmon, who's also great in the space. But I mean, I'm not all about taking him just because he's a cool guy. You know what I mean? So take Alvin Kamara over Austin Ekeler and take Devontae Smith in that 3rd round instead.
No, I agree. We as much as we think guys are cool, we're here to win dynasty championships, build dynasty rosters that are built to compete for years on years on years. And having a guy like Austin Ekeler doesn't always work. Let's move into this next guy conversation of Derrick Henry. It feels like, and I've been saying this for a year now, Derrick Henry just seems to be built different, which that's not, everyone always says that. But the part that I say that not other people say are we need to maybe be comparing Derrick Henry to like Jerome Bettis, like a running back that played into his early 30s, even Emmitt Smith, super productive on the ground, could deal with the hits, could deal with the large workloads. And until we see Derrick Henry break down, which I know 2 seasons ago, we kind of saw him break down with a few injuries and where he only played, what was it, like 8 or 9 games? But even in those 8 or 9 games, his points per game, his efficiency metrics, still super high. Where are you at with Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I mean, I still have him in a few contending leagues. I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's him. He's the king. He's the rushing king. He's hit 2,000 yards, I think, twice now. So this is a guy that's just an absolute monster. And although the injury to his plant foot, which is kind of sketchy for me, season-ending foot surgery isn't always good, especially for a guy that's 6'3", 245 that moves like a freight train. But if anybody's going to be that outlier, it is him. So it depends on the cost and value. I mean, I see he's RB17 on keep trade cut. There's some guys that I would not prefer over him at all. Maybe J.K. Dobbins, depends how I'm feeling. If I want to get younger and still get production, big on that breakout season in that elite Ravens offense. But if not, I mean, I'm not taking Sanders, definitely not taking Charbonnet, not taking Rashad White, James Cook, any of those guys over Derrick Henry. So I think he's priced accordingly. And I think if we trade maybe 2 seconds or maybe like a late first one, we can get 2 more elite years out of him. I mean, that offensive line was ranked 32nd worst on PFF going into 2023, so it could get sketchy with that. But DeAndre Hopkins, healthy Treylon Burks, Ryan Tannehill healthy. I mean, that offense is going to be overall just so much better as an offense as a whole, with or without a good offensive line.
I just think he's even more of that old where people are just willing to get rid of him for anything. Like we're talking like
you don't have to give up a first. No way.
No. And especially what you said, like if I could offer Dameon Pierce and get Derrick Henry, honestly, that's a smash because Dameon Pierce, for as much as he's a younger running back, there's no guarantee that the Houston Texans don't go out next season in a deep running back class and draft somebody that's going to come in and be better than Dameon Pierce. Derrick Henry, we know what he is. And until he proves to us that he's not that guy, then I will trade everyone else around him that is valued like that guy for him.
Christian McCaffrey, just to say this, is the RB3 on keep trade cut. So, I mean, he's probably valued over 2 first-round picks in most dynasty leagues, especially in teams with guys with heavy contenders. So, you could go ahead and turn around Christian McCaffrey into a 24 plus 25 first and like a Derrick Henry level player that's winning in dynasty all day because you're getting a running back that's going to produce the same for the next 1 to 2 years and you're getting free first-round picks. So, that's how you create God squads in Dynasty and just absolutely dominate your leagues.
We're going to talk about 2 guys here kind of back to back, and I want to hear your thoughts on both. We're going to talk about Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones. It felt like Joe Mixon before him taking that little bit of pay cut. Next year, 100% was going to be cut, and there was even some concern that he might be cut this season just based on his cap hit. What are your thoughts about Joe Mixon? It seems like kind of same thing we talked about with Austin Ekeler. High touchdown upside, not necessarily the same player that he was a few years ago, because right now on Keep Trade Cut, Joe Mixon is the RB24, and then Aaron Jones is also the RB25 without Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mixon's underpriced. I'd still rather him over guys like Akers, Cook, White, Charbonnet, Miles Sanders, even J.K. Dobbins, because this is a guy that was an RB4 overall finish just 2 years ago, averaging almost a touchdown per game. And this is a guy that is also playing in a much better offense this year. Very good offensive line. It was so bad last year. Offense was super inefficient. Samaje Perine's gone, and this isn't an elite offense that is going to be in the red zone so many times this year. I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Granted, they all stay healthy. You know how your Bengals cook. That there's going to be a ton of opportunity for Mixon to stuff in 1 to 2 yard touchdowns, kind of like we saw with Jamal Williams. And then we also saw him catch 60-plus passes last year. So no more Perine. He's going to have that same passing upside. That offensive line is going to be double the efficient that it was last year. I mean, it's going to be so much better overall. So he's going to be more efficient between the tackles, bump up that yards per carry, maybe get more usage in the run game because they're going to be winning more games with a healthy Jamar Chase back, running the ball more. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, so no doubt in my mind they're going to be a top 3 offense again. So Joe Mixon at RB24 is just incredible value because he just turned 27, so I expect another year or 2 out of him as well.
When we look at Aaron Jones in particular, is there any part that you think A.J. Dillon's going to get more into the workload, or are we just at this point know that A.J. Dillon is who he is and Aaron Jones is still going to get the majority of the work these next few seasons?
I think A.J. Dillon's pretty good. I think he's like a solid, capable backup that can get you production if he's the starter due to an injury. But I mean, I'm not the biggest Aaron Jones fan in fantasy football as is. I mean, he lost to Aaron Rodgers. That offense is going to be mid this year. They have a good offensive line, but I mean, he's just not going to get a ton of scoring opportunities. So he's going to rely on a ton of receptions, which he could get with Jordan Love. That could be a thing. So, I mean, with costs baked in, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, guys I've been trying to buy in all my contenders just to build out my veteran depth. But Aaron Jones is much better than A.J. Dillon, and he has the receiving upside as well.
We're gonna get to your boy in a second, but let's address Dalvin Cook goes to the New York Jets right now on Keep Trade Cut, RB39. Of course, going behind Breece Hall. I'm sure that number right now he's still free agent on Keep Trade Cut. So once that gets updated, trades, the people voting starts coming in. I'm sure Dalvin Cook will be more around that RB35 range. Where are you at with Dalvin Cook? It just feels like you missed your time to sell because he's not gonna have the volume, not going to have the upside unless something happens to Breece Hall. He seems more like a glorified handcuff at this point. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a little bit more valuable than a handcuff because they brought him in on a 1-year deal, paying him like $6 million. So, I mean, or maybe even more. Was it like 8?
Yeah, I think with incentives,
it was
like
8 mil. So, I mean, they're going to use him, and they're going to use him as a change of pace guy and use him to his advantage. I mean, he still has great vision and burst. That's one thing that he's always been really good at. So he's going to kind of eat away at that. But I think they're going to use Breece Hall more in that second and third down role and probably on the goal line as well because he's a bigger, stronger back and better in that aspect. But Dalvin Cook's an elite end handcuff is a good way to look at it. A guy that I would send out 3 third-round picks for, 2 third-round picks for, or maybe like a 25-second just to get my veteran depth up if I'm a serious contender. But he's not like those other guys that we're talking about, and he's probably the last one I'd rank.
And we're now going to talk. You've been waiting all episode to now talk about your boy that is literally your Twitter bio. You got the jersey behind you, Alvin Kamara. Now the suspension 3 games, a lot of people were feeling iffy about it, but I feel like 3 games is, if you bought low in this offseason, 3 games is less than what you were expecting. So you feel like you won. It feels like a great profit opportunity.
He's the RB32 on Keep Trade Cut right now, so that's phenomenal value for a guy that's going to come back in weeks 4 to 18 and put up top 10 points per game numbers. I mean, he's playing in the best offense he's played in since Drew Brees and Michael Thomas were healthy back in 2020. 2020 is RB1 overall season. We lost Brees. He was playing with Winston. Then he was playing with Andy Dalton. I mean, what do you expect this guy to do? Last year, their whole offensive line was banged up. No MT. They had no weapons other than a Chris Olave rookie. That was great, but he wasn't that level of guy where he's putting up 1,500 yards and he's an elite separator on every single level, catching every single pass and moving the chains every time that you need him to. He can be like that guy, but I mean, Alvin Kamara was also playing through bruised and fractured ribs. So he just had a down year overall, but he was still the RB13 in points per game RB16 finished with missing 3 games. So he was going to crack that top 10 in the worst situation he's been in. Andy Dalton was throwing footballs. I mean, what do you expect? They added Derek Carr, healthy Michael Thomas. He's looking great in training camp. Chris Olave is going to take that next stride. They have Juwan Johnson. They added Jamal Williams to kind of keep the stress off Alvin Kamara and use him in those key third round situations, second down, give him the toss and the pitches like he used to get on the goal line, and just use him unique like they've always done and be creative with him. I mean, he's one of the best playmakers in open space I've seen ever, and he's one of the best receiving backs in the league as well. So I expect him to come in, command that insane target share that he had. I think he had like an 18% target share last year, which is literally ridiculous for a running back. So there's just no reason to not still buy into his talent, especially when there's literally no risk involved because he's like the RB32. So you can go, I traded Josh Palmer, Tyler Algier, and a 24-second for him today, and I literally have never felt better about it. I mean, I have like 78% ownership of him in Dynasty across 28 leagues, so I'm banking on him big time, and he's an even better value in redraft. So definitely draft Alvin Kamara, and that offense is going to be so much better this year with Derek Carr leading it.
He won me a ton of Dynasty championships in his Christmas shoe game with 6 total touchdowns.
6 for 6 for me. I
That
went
was
6 for 6.
insane. But so when people then push back on you and say, okay, I hear you saying the Jamal Williams, but I know KJ Miller just kind of got injured, but at some point it's going to be back. A lot of people were saying that the younger, more athletic back's going to come in and push Alvin Kamara for touches. What is your read on that situation, and how do you think that affects? Does that affect Alvin Kamara's dynasty value at all? Is it like, is he going to drop down farther just due to the suspension, or do you think it's nothing to worry about with KJ Miller?
You know, I love KJ Miller. I mean, he was my RB3 in this draft class, and I'm super high on him as a talent, but the knee injury is still an issue. I mean, he's not healthy yet, and I think it's going to take him a little bit to get his feet wet. I think he'll play a little bit early on. I mean, they added Darrell Williams probably to play a little bit on third down, but him and Jamal are going to get some good playing time while Kamara's out. But once Kamara's back in, we're going to see a lot of that man on the field. We're going to see 41 running around, catching 5 passes a game, and hitting that crazy ceiling that he's always showed us. People are trying to say that they think he lost a step. He got tons of new training and new trainers this year to kind of re-unlock that explosiveness and that burst that he's had that's so crazy about him, and that contact balance. I mean, we still saw it. We saw him absolutely dominate the Raiders, putting up 40-plus points and bouncing off everybody, and you couldn't tackle the guy. And we saw it in a small glimpse in that preseason game as well. They kept getting the ball in his hands. Yet he got like 2 passes and had 2 carries, very efficient on those carries and passes. So they're going to get him in space like they once have, and I think he's really going to be good. And Kendrick Miller is a good long-term option, but he's not going to eat into Alvin Kamara's value within the next 1 to 2 years, in my opinion.
Well, that is good to hear, because all my Alvin Kamara shares have been silently not on sale for anybody, because I believe in the talent. He's not only won me championships, I still see the upside. And like we said, when you're talking these older running backs, there's just some where you could just see the value continuing to hold over the next few seasons. Now, any running back, it is a little bit more risky holding that stock later on in the career, but let's be honest, holding any running back stock at this point, you're looking at one thing goes wrong, whole value tanks. So we definitely appreciate you tuning into this YouTube video. Shout out FF Snook for coming on, chatting up some running backs. If you didn't check out our video yesterday, we put out talking about wide receivers with top 12 upside, kind of walked through both dynasty and redraft. So go check that out. Make sure you go check him out on Twitter, and appreciate everyone for tuning in here today. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.